The Millionaire and the Black Beggar. They called her the Black Beggar, the woman who vanished from London's glittering ballrooms and vanished into the foggy streets like a ghost. But she wasn't a beggar at all. She was Isabella, rich, trapped, and broken under the weight of a golden cage she'd never asked for. And Richard, the millionaire titan, ruthless and cold, whose name echoed in the city's high towers and dark alleys alike. Their worlds were poles apart, yet fate, cruel and strange, had tied them together. The night she disappeared, the London social scene buzzed with whispers. Isabella, dressed in diamonds that could choke a man, was last seen clutching a worn black cloak that erased her elegance like ink swallowing paper. They say she slipped through the gates of Richard's sprawling estate, her breaths shallow, heart hammering like a war drum. No one knew where she went. No one dared to say. But rumors flew faster than the autumn wind. Some said she'd fallen into ruin. And the city? It watched, hungry for scandal. Headlines screamed, "The millionaire's bride runs off with nothing but shadows." And, "Who is the Black Beggar?" Mystery woman stuns London. The streets buzz with curious eyes and impatient tongues. Her escape wasn't just a flight, it was a collapse, a desperate plunge into the unknown. Isabella ran from satin and silk, from golden chains and whispered threats, into the raw, biting chill of freedom. Her shoes hit cobbled stones instead of marble floors. The air smelled of rain and smoke, not perfume and champagne. Every step stung. Every gust of wind tossed her tangled hair like a wild signal to the unseen. She stumbled into a little village, where the world slowed and cracked with charm and secrets. There, among rising smoke and red leaves swirling in the sharp breeze, stood Jack, a quiet man with tired eyes, full of kindness, a widower whose hands remembered sorrow and strength, with his small daughter Sophie, whose laughter ... This village was a hidden island, safe for some, but perhaps not for her. Yet Jack opened a door, a cracked smile offering shelter to a soul on fire. Isabella's chest tightened every time she felt the past clawing in her mind, the cold power of Richard's grip, the whispers chasing her through night and day, memories that bruised like invisible chains. But with Jack's quiet presence, there were moments, a touch, a smile from Sophie, that chipped away the fear, leaving small sparks of hope. Could she build something real here? Could she outrun a man who wielded money like a weapon, tearing down everyone who stood in his way? Richard wasn't done, not by a long shot. As the leaves deepened to burnt gold, so did the threats. Shadows crept behind the village, dark rumors leaking like poison. People looked away. Voices twisted her name, and beneath the calm, a storm was gathering. One that might shatter the fragile peace she'd found, or swallow it whole. The night air grew colder. Isabella's breath caught. For every step forward, her past lurked closer, its claws sharper than ever. Could she protect this new family? This flicker of freedom? Or was she doomed to watch it crumble? And what dark truths was Richard hiding behind his polished smile? The story was far from over. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The night settled over the village yet the shadows of her past crept closer, cold fingers brushing against her spine. Sophie, with her tousled hair and innocent smile, tugged at Isabella's sleeve, pulling her back into the warmth of the present. "Aren't you going to tell me a story?" the girl asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Isabella smiled, a genuine flicker against the dread lurking in her heart. "Of course, my dear. How about a tale of brave knights and hidden treasures?" But just as she began to weave the magic of her words, a sharp knock echoed through the door of Jack's cottage. It jolted her from the moment, sending a rush of fear through her veins. Jack's face paled. "Stay here," he ordered gently, his voice a whisper of steel. He opened the door cautiously, and a gust of wind followed, carrying the chill of London's indifference. Standing on the threshold was a figure Isabella recognized. One she thought she had escaped. Richard. His presence radiated power, yet something darker flick. He was a storm on calm waters. "Isabella," he said, each syllable dripping with menace. He stepped inside, the air thickening with unspoken threats. "You really thought you could leave?" Isabella's breath hitched. Panic clawed at her chest. "What do you want?" she choked out, stepping closer to Jack, instinctively seeking protection. Richard smirked, an unsettling smile that held no warmth. "I want what's mine. You think you can hide in this quaint little soul trap? This isn't a fairy tale." Jack stiffened, his body ready to shield Isabella. "You need to leave. You have no place here," he growled, voice full of resolve. But just as Richard was about to respond, a haunting wail pierced the night. The sound slashed through their confrontation, making Isabella's skin crawl. "What was that?" Sophie asked, her small voice trembling. "Stay inside," Jack barked, his focus shifting to the door. With a sudden crash, the door flew open, and in rushed several villagers, faces pale and eyes wide. "It's the church! It's been set ablaze!" a woman exclaimed, fingers trembling. Confusion erupted. "What? How?" Jack stammered, glancing nervously between the villagers and Richard. But Richard's gaze was locked on Isabella, his expression unreadable. "I had nothing to do with that, yet," he said slowly, like a cat toying with a mouse. "This town isn't safe. You'll never escape me. Not now." A wave of realization crashed over Isabella, her heart twisting. "You did this," she gasped, backing away. "You're trying to force me back." Richard shrugged, a dark joke behind his eyes. "Sometimes things catch fire. Sometimes they burn." Fear surged through her. The villagers were desperate. The fire an omen. And Richard was a puppeteer in a deadly play. In that moment, everything shattered. Jack wasn't just any man. He was now a pawn in a game Isabella never wanted to enter. The walls of her refuge crumbled like the embers in the night sky. "Get away from her!" Jack yelled, stepping forward protectively. But a flicker of doubt raced through Isabella's mind. What was Jack hiding? What was Richard really capable of? The fire blazed behind them, and in that instant, both her new life and her past converged into a dark abyss. Questions swirled like smoke. Time stood still, charged with uncertainty. Could the village survive the inferno? Could she? As the flames danced against the night, Isabella's world twisted yet again. Deceit, danger, and betrayal lay before her like a path strewn with ashes. The truth loomed, dark and hungry, as dangerous as the blaze, threatening to consume all she dared to love. The flames roared behind them, casting flickering shadows that danced ominously across Jack's cottage. Isabella's heart raced as she stood there, eyes darting back and forth between Richard and Jack, fear clawing at her throat. The villagers huddled close, their faces drawn tight with panic and confusion. The air felt electric, charged with dread. "Isabella!" Richard's voice was soft, almost sweet. "You're making a mistake. Running away won't free you. It'll only make it worse." His eyes flickered to Jack, a predator sizing up its target. Jack stepped forward, fists clenched. "Leave. You have no right here." But then, from the crowd, a voice quivered, cutting through the tension. "What do you want with her?" A woman, one of the villagers, Isabella recognized. "We don't want trouble." "Trouble follows me like a shadow," Richard replied, his voice low and dangerous. "But what I want, dear lady, is my wife back." The word hit like a blow. "Wife," Isabella echoed, her voice barely a whisper. She felt her breath hitch, panic tightening around her chest. But Richard's gaze was fixed on the villagers, a sinister glimmer lurking behind his arrogance. "When I found her in my estate, she was lost, and I rescued her. You think this quaint little village will keep her safe? No, you're all playing a game you can't win." "Game?" Jack's face twisted in disbelief. "Is she a pawn to you?" Richard smiled, the corners of his mouth lifting in an unsettling way. "You'll learn the truth soon enough." His eyes flicked back to Isabella. "And so will you." Suddenly, without warning, a series of loud thuds echoed from behind, drawing everyone's attention. The door slammed against the wall as more villagers rushed in, faces pale and wild. "The church is—" one started but was cut off by a roar of flames that erupted outside, smoke billowing into the sky. Isabella's heart sank. The church represented hope, a place where the community gathered. "We need to help!" she shouted. But Richard only laughed, the sound chilling her to the bone. "You want to save something? You should start with yourself. Did you really think the past would just vanish?" With a swift motion, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small, flashing device. It blinked ominously in the dim light. "This is a little reminder of what I'm capable of. This is a detonator. Your church, your precious village can all go up in flames." Shock coursed through Isabella. "You wouldn't." But Richard's lips curled, twisted with dark amusement. "Try me. This village is already marked, and the fire will show you how much I want you back." The villagers gasped, fear expanding like a dark cloud. They murmured among themselves, unsure of what to do. Jack stepped up, eyes narrowed in determination, ready to fight. "Put it down, Richard! You won't take her back like this." Richard tilted his head, eyes glinting with malice. "And what will you do? Protect her with your bare hands?" Isabella felt dread quivering in her chest. Was Jack really capable of fighting this monster? "Jack, don't!" She reached out, panic flooding her voice. But before she could utter another word, a loud crash erupted from behind them. The roof of the church collapsed, sending sparks into the already chaotic air. Gasping, the villagers recoiled. "It's over! We have to run!" one shouted. "No," Richard shouted back, fury igniting in his eyes. "You stay, and she leaves with me, or this village burns to the ground." The weight of his threat hung heavily in the crisp night air. Isabella's mind raced. She couldn't let anyone else suffer for her choice. Just as she felt despair settle in, Jack stepped forward, eyes steady. "Isabella, whatever happens, know this." But before he finished, the detonator in Richard's hand began to blink faster. "Time's up. Make your choice." Glimmers of hope and despair tangled together. With a rush of adrenaline, Isabella raced forward. "Wait, I'll go with you. Just don't hurt anyone." A mix of disbelief and horror washed over the crowd. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Surprise danced in his eyes. "Really? You'd abandon all this for me?" Isabella locked eyes with Jack, the truth heavy between them. Maybe she had just turned the game upside down. Or maybe she had just sealed their fate. As Richard's laugh echoed around her, she realized the fire was not just outside. It was inside her soul, igniting a war she never wanted. In that moment, the world spun into chaos. Her heart ached with uncertainty, relationships crumbling like ash around her. What had she unleashed? And would she pay the ultimate price for her choice? Isabella's voice trembled as she made her choice, her heart racing. "I'll go with you. Just don't hurt anyone." Each word felt like a stone dropping into the abyss, echoing back in disbelief. The villagers recoiled, their gasps merging into a horrified chorus. Richard's expression shifted, surprise sparking in his cold eyes. "Really? You're willing to throw away everything for me?" he asked, amusement mingling with malicious glee. The tension twisted tighter, wrapping around them like a noose. But Jack's face paled, realization tearing through him. "Isabella, don't do this. You can't trust him." His voice was raw, desperation cutting through the chaos. "Stay back, Jack." Isabella's heart shattered as she looked at him, the weight of her decision heavy in the air. She felt his pain, but Richard's grip tightened. "Time is ticking, Isabella." Richard's gaze flickered to the villagers, a predator sizing up a feast. "They're already scared. Let's keep it that way." Suddenly, a low rumble filled the night, the sound that didn't belong. The ground shook beneath them. Confusion clouded the villagers' faces. The church continued to erupt behind them, flames licking the night sky. But this felt different. "What's happening?" someone shouted, panic ripping through the crowd. Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled violently, jolting everyone off balance. The noise swelled, a deep, resonant roar, drowning out fears and cries, and then a blinding light burst forth, illuminating the darkened village and bathing everyone in an unnatural glow. Isabella squinted against the brilliance, unable to see through the glare. It came from the church, but something was moving, something larger. Richard's confidence faltered, eyes wide in disbelief. The villagers cried out, stumbling back, bewildered. A low growl emanated from its throat, shaking souls. Isabella's heart raced, not just from fear, but from a different kind of recognition. No, it can't be. Sophie's small voice broke through the shock, trembling. Is that an angel? Richard stumbled backward, hands raised defensively. What is this? His bravado shattered. He stumbled into the crowd, eyes darting. But the creature wasn't finished. It shot forward, flames swirling like its own fiery aura. Isabella stood frozen, breath catching in her throat. The creature lowered its massive head, locking eyes with her, a deep, ancient recognition flowing through the air. In that moment, a curtain fell away. Memory surged through Isabella's mind, a flood of colors and images, a life she didn't remember living, a life with power, with wings and light. A gasp escaped her as she began to understand. What's happening? Who are you? Jack shouted, his eyes wide, fear melding with wonder. But Richard's expression had changed, fear eclipsing his arrogance. You should never have come back, he roared, anger turning to panic. You told me she was gone forever. Isabella felt the weight of the truth crash upon her like waves. You knew? Anguish cracked her voice, pain flooding in as realities collided. The monumental figure lifted a clawed hand, a singular command in its motion. Isabella, remember who you are. Its voice was like thunder, reverberating through her bones. And in that instant, clarity broke through the despair, the lies, the fear, the chains binding her to Richard. Richard stepped back, eyes wild with fear. No, you belong to me. But Isabella shook her head, strength flooding her without her consent. This was no longer her story alone. I'm not yours, she cried, each word igniting the truth. I'm not just the black beggar. I'm so much more. The villagers watched, bewildered, caught in the spell of a moment that redefined everything they thought they knew. As the creature roared, flames surged higher, and shadows danced wildly around them. The lines were drawn. Richard's power struggled against something ancient and vast, and Isabella stood at the center, a woman caught between worlds, identities collapsing upon each other. As the fire crackled and the creature unfurled its wings in fierce defiance, Isabella realized the journey ahead was not merely about escape. It was a battle, a fight for herself, for Jack, for Sophie and the village, and perhaps even for Richard, who stood trembling in fear of losing control. A night was just beginning, and its true fury was yet to be. Isabella's heart raced as she stood there, eyes darting back and forth between Richard and Jack, fear clawing at her throat. The villagers huddled close, their faces drawn tight with panic and confusion. The air felt electric, charged with dread. Isabella, Richard's voice was soft, almost sweet. You're making a mistake. Running away won't free you. It'll only make it worse. His eyes flickered to Jack, a predator sizing up its target. Jack stepped forward, fists clenched. Leave! You have no right here! Trouble follows me like a shadow, Richard replied, his voice low and dangerous. But what I want, dear lady, is my wife back. The word hit like a blow. Wife? Isabella echoed, her voice barely a whisper. She felt her breath hitch, panic tightening around her chest. But Richard's gaze was fixed on the villagers, a sinister glimmer lurking behind his arrogance. When I found her in my estate, she was lost, and I rescued her. You think this quaint little village will keep her safe? No. You're all playing a game you can't win. Game? Jack's face twisted in disbelief. Is she a pawn to you? Richard smiled, the corners of his mouth lifting in an unsettling way. You'll learn the truth soon enough. His eyes flicked back to Isabella. And so will you. Suddenly, without warning, a series of loud thuds echoed from behind, drawing everyone's attention. The door slammed against the wall as more villagers rushed in, faces pale and wild. The churches! One started, but was cut off by a roar of flames that erupted outside, smoke billowing into the sky. Isabella's heart sank. The church represented hope, a place where the community gathered. "We need to help!" she shouted. But Richard only laughed, the sound chilling her to the bone. You want to save something? You should start with yourself. Did you really think the past would just vanish? With a swift motion, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small, flashing device. It blinked ominously in the dim light. This is a little reminder of what I'm capable of. This is a detonator. Your church, your precious village, can all go up in flames. Shock coursed through Isabella. You wouldn't! But Richard's lips curled, twisted with dark amusement. Try me! This village is already marked, and the fire will show you how much I want you back. The villagers gasped, fear expanding like a dark cloud. They murmured among themselves, unsure of what to do. Jack stepped up, eyes narrowed in determination, ready to fight. Put it down, Richard. You won't take her back like this. Richard tilted his head, eyes glinting with malice. And what will you do? Protect her with your bare hands? Isabella felt dread quivering in her chest. Was Jack really capable of fighting this monster? Jack, don't! She reached out, panic flooding her voice. But before she could utter another word, a loud crash erupted from behind them. The roof of the church collapsed, sending sparks into the already chaotic air. Gasping, the villagers recoiled. It's over! We have to run! One shouted. No! Richard shouted back, fury igniting in his eyes. You stay, and she leaves with me, or this village burns to the ground. The weight of his threat hung heavily in the crisp night air. Isabella's mind raced. She couldn't let anyone else suffer for her choice. Just as she felt despair settle in, Jack stepped forward, eyes steady. Isabella, whatever happens, know this. But before he finished, the detonator in Richard's hand began to blink faster. Time's up! Make your choice! Glimmers of hope and despair tangled together. With a rush of adrenaline, Isabella raced forward. Wait! I'll go with you! Just don't hurt anyone! A mix of disbelief and horror washed over the crowd. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Surprise danced in his eyes. Really? You'd abandon all this for me? Isabella locked eyes with Jack, the truth heavy between them. Maybe she had just turned the game upside down, or maybe she had just sealed their fate. As Richard's laugh echoed around her, she realized the fire was not just outside. It was inside her soul, igniting a war she never wanted. In that moment, the world spun into chaos. Her heart ached with uncertainty, relationships crumbling like ash around her. What had she unleashed? But before any further words were spoken, the creature behind her roared with fury. Shaking the ground beneath their feet, Isabella felt heat radiating from its massive form, and an unexpected wave of power surged through her. "Isabella!" Jack shouted, eyes wide with panic. "What's happening?" The glowing being opened its mouth, releasing a blinding light that swallowed the night. Shadows scattered. Richard staggered back, shielding his eyes as confusion blurred his features. But then, in a shocking twist, the creature transformed. Its shape morphed, shifting into a figure Isabella recognized all too well. In the blinding light, the outline became that of a woman she hadn't seen for years. "Mother?" Isabella gasped as recognition struck her like a bolt of lightning. The world stilled, time paused, the truth hit hard. "Isabella!" The figure's voice rang out, familiar yet foreign. "I've come to tell you the truth." Richard's face paled. "No, it can't be." Isabella's heart raced. What truth? She couldn't breathe, fear entwining with disbelief. "This village is a part of the curse." "And you?" Her mother's eyes bore into hers, filled with urgency. "You must choose." The air thickened, relationships and loyalties blurred into shadows, secrets unfolded around them. Nothing was what it seemed. "What curse?" Isabella's voice trembled. "What do you mean?" Her mother stepped forward, the fiery glow illuminating her face, revealing a history long buried, a past Isabella never knew she owned. "Your father," she began, "wasn't just a wealthy man. He was a king, and you, my dear, are his heir." Shock crashed through Isabella's mind, a wave pulling her under. No, this can't be true. But her heart raced. The truth felt like a brand, and as the villagers stared, mouths agape, the ground beneath them trembled, the fire roaring anew. Choices loomed before her, like a fork in a dark, winding road. Richard laughed darkly, disbelief lacing his tone. "So, the black beggar is a princess? Ha ha! Quaint!" But as Isabella stood there, heart pounding, she felt the weight of the world pressing in. There were no easy answers anymore, just a tangled web of loyalty, blood, and a darkness that threatened to consume it all. "What will you do, Isabella?" Her mother's voice rang out, and at that moment, the line between past and future blurred. Choices would define them. Choices that could ignite a war. Choices that could shatter the very foundations of their lives. The air crackled, heavy with possibility, and Isabella's heart raced with uncertainty as she faced the fires of her lineage. The night was just beginning, and even as the chaos roared, she knew it was only the start of something far more dangerous. Isabella felt her heart hammering in her chest as her mother's figure loomed in the fiery glow. "An heir? To what?" she gasped, disbelief flooding her senses. The villagers stood frozen, wide-eyed, caught between awe and horror. The air crackled with anticipation. Richard, face pale, staggered back, virtually forgotten in the shifting tide of emotions. "You're lying. You were supposed to be gone." His voice broke, a mix of fury and dread, as if the truth was shattering his carefully constructed facade. "Listen," her mother pleaded, urgency lacing her tone. "There's so much you don't know. The past is clawing back, and it's more dangerous than you realize. You're not just Isabella. You are of royal blood. And Richard. Her mother hesitated, swallowing hard, eyes narrowing at Richard. He's the reason for our suffering. Gasps swept through the villagers like wind through fallen leaves. What do you mean? Jack's voice broke the silence, filled with confusion and fear. Richard's facade began to crack. Don't listen to her. She's spinning tales. He spat the words like venom, but fear seeped through, showing cracks in his bravado. I'm your past, her mother continued, holding Isabella's gaze with an intensity that made her skin prickle. And I came here to protect you, even if it cost me. Suddenly, the blinding light around her mother flickered. Columns of bright energy pulsed like a heart struggling to keep beat. No! Stay with me! Isabella felt her world tilt. Her mother was losing strength, and without knowing why, fear coursed through her. The creature beside them rumbled, and Jack stepped closer, protectively pulling Isabella back, eyes darting from one to the next. What's happening? He shouted. Is this some kind of trick? In that moment, the pulsing light snapped, dissipating like smoke, revealing a blindingly beautiful woman who was now no longer her mother. I'm not here to hurt you, but to save you, the figure said, voice a melody that resonated with the night air. Richard's eyes turned to slits, his shock twisting into fury. You, he uttered, pointing a trembling finger. You've come to ruin everything. And then in a flash of brilliant light, form shifted again. The figure transformed, twisting into a mirror image of Isabella. It was her, but with a strength she had never known. The villagers gazed in stunned silence. Who was this second Isabella? What the? Jack muttered, step faltering. The new Isabella looked at her counterpart, a smirk curling her lips. She is nothing without me. Her tone dripped with arrogance. You think you're special? You're a shadow of what you could be. Dread clawed at Isabella's insides. What are you talking about? The new Isabella's laugh was harsh, cutting through the rising tension. You are not just a beggar. You were made to rule. This village was only the beginning. Shivers raced down Isabella's spine as uncertainty washed over the crowd. Questions churned. Are you my twin? She croaked, each word a struggle. No, darling, I'm everything you could have been and will be, she said, her eyes narrowing with ambition. And Richard? She looked at him, respect intertwining with disdain. He is only a pawn. Isabella felt her heart drop. Everything she thought she understood twisted into something dark and unfamiliar. Richard? A pawn? Her twin? Was she really capable of all this power? Suddenly, the ground shook again, splitting beneath them like a crack in the earth. A deep rumble echoed across the village as a voice, familiar yet foreign, boomed from the shadows. The truth is here. Your destinies are intertwined. Choose wisely. Isabella's world spun, uncertainty blurring into chaos. Her thoughts whirled in a storm, trying to grasp what was happening. The lines were drawn, and now she faced not one enemy, but a reflection that whispered lies and truths, all wrapped in shimmering deceit. As the fire flared brighter, illuminating the agonized faces around her, Isabella realized she was standing at the precipice of an unknown realm. Who was she meant to become? What would she unleash if she truly embraced her destiny? Time seemed to stretch, waiting for her choice, as the shadows flickered like flames, a darkness wrapping around her soul. And then, just as everything felt lost, Richard screamed, "You will pay for this!" With those words, the ground beneath them gave way, plunging them into uncharted darkness. Isabella hung on the edge of fear and fury, questions swirling. The weight of her mother's truth pressing against her. What lay? Eyes wide, Isabella felt the heat of fire and fear merge in her chest. Everything began to blur, reality fracturing like a mirror dropping to the floor. "Isabella!" Jack's voice cut through the chaos, but it felt miles away. She was lost in a storm of swirling colors and emotions tightening around her like a fist. She clung to the truth her mother had unveiled. She was of royal blood, an heir. Yet doubt clawed at her heart. What did that even mean? Richard staggered back. Suddenly, a figure emerged. Not just any figure, but another version of Richard. But this one appeared younger, his eyes burning with a different kind of madness. "Richard?" she whispered. Shock paralyzing her. The crowd gasped, whispers spreading like wildfire. "Yes!" the younger Richard bellowed, stepping forward with a manic grin, energy crackling around him. "The real Richard! The one who's been hidden, sealed away! I'm free now!" Isabella's thoughts raced. How could this be? Was it possible that all along, this powerful man had a darker side lurking beneath? "You!" Richard spat, his face contorting with rage. "You shouldn't be here! You were sealed away!" "You think you can control me?" the younger Richard shot back, eyes gleaming with a wild light. "You're the pawn here. You always were." The villagers staggered back, fear etched on their faces. "What is this?" Jack shouted, confusion morphing into panic. "No! No! Stay back!" the original Richard shouted, his voice rising in desperation. But the younger Richard lunged forward, and chaos erupted. The ground trembled with a violent intensity. The sky crackled as if awaiting a storm. The once bright village was now cloaked in darkness, the air buzzing with uncertainty. Suddenly, Isabella felt a ripple of energy course through her, igniting something deep in her spirit. "I'm done with this," she shouted, the words bursting out of her like a dam breaking. "You both think you can play with my life?" The shadows shifted, the younger Richard's laughter resonating like thunder. "Your life? Your power? You're more than just a pawn, dear sister." "Wait, sister?" Isabella choked, realization slamming into her like a wall. The truth erupted like a volcano. She was not just an heir. She was part of something larger, tied to this chaos in ways she didn't fully understand. The crowd gasped, and Jack stumbled, eyes wide with disbelief. "Sister? What does he mean?" Isabella's head spun. No, that can't be possible. Yet, as fragments of memories seeped like light through cracks, she felt a connection, a bond she'd never known. "You're awakening, dear sister." The younger Richard grinned, stepping closer, power radiating off him like heat from a fire. "And this is only the beginning." Everything fell to pieces around her. The villagers' fear, Jack's confusion, Richard's fury. The foundations of her life crumbled into dust. each breath a stab of shock clutching her heart. As the heavens roared and darkness rose, Isabella stood on the edge of an overwhelming truth. She was not just Isabella, the black beggar, the heir, the prisoner. She was something far more dangerous. Choose wisely, choose your future. Her mother's voice echoed as the ground quaked, and something deep inside Isabella began to awaken. With uncertainty crackling in the air, she knew everything would change. The world around her faded to shadows, and she stood on the brink of destiny. What would she become, and who would she choose to stand with? Isabella felt the fabric of reality shift as she stood between two versions of Richard, her heart racing. The villagers were silent, eyes wide with shock and confusion. She could barely breathe, the weight of dual truths pressing down like lead. Sister? Heir? What did it all mean in this moment? The air crackled, the tension palpable. As the two Richards faced off, a deep rumble rolled through the ground, the earth shifting unnaturally beneath their feet. The villagers recoiled, murmurs of fear rippling through them. And then, suddenly, the sky split open with a blinding flash of light, illuminating everything around them. A shockwave exploded from the crack, knocking everyone off balance. Isabella fell hard to the ground, gasping as a deafening roar filled the air. She looked up, eyes wide as the ground beneath Richard's feet shattered. A colossal figure rose from the depths, a massive creature that bore no resemblance to the one that had emerged before. This immense being, wreathed in shadows and flickering flames, towered over everyone. A creature forged from nightmares and dreams both. Isabella's heart raced in terror. Who dares awaken me? The creature's voice boomed like thunder, echoing through the village. The ground shook with its every word, sending dust and debris swirling into the air. Richard stumbled back, fear flashing across his face. I'm not afraid of you, he stammered, raising his hands defiantly, even as his body trembled. The younger Richard grinned, stepping toward the colossal figure with confidence, as if they shared a dark understanding. We've both waited for this moment. Isabella's mind raced. She felt a connection to the Create. It knew her. She could feel it deep in her bones. What are you? She whispered, terror and awe mingling in her voice. The creature fixed its gaze on her, burning eyes searching her soul. You are my chosen one, Isabella. You govern the divide between shadow and light. What are you talking about? She whispered, shaken. Panic surged within her as the villagers gasped in horror. This was turning into a nightmare, far beyond what she had imagined. But before the creature could respond, the sky darkened, swirling clouds gathering like a storm preparing to strike. Reality seemed to unravel, time stretching as an unsettling quiet fell over the scene. All eyes were on Isabella, as though she were the key to the impending chaos. Suddenly, the flames around the creature flickered, and the ground trembled anew, sending a shockwave of fear throughout the crowd. With a deafening roar, the creature unleashed a blast of energy that surged outward, shaking the very foundations of the V. Isabella braced herself, heart thumping wildly. But in that instant, as the shadows coiled around her, she saw it. A fleeting image that shattered the very essence of her understanding. Richard, her protector? No, her enemy. He lunged forward, the younger Richard's hand intertwining with his. "No!" Isabella screamed, as the truth hit her like a brick. They were working together. They had betrayed her all along. The villagers erupted into chaos, fear transforming to anger. "What have you done?" Jack shouted, his voice hoarse and filled with disbelief. "Silence!" the colossal creature commanded, and the ground fell still. But everything had changed. As Richard stepped closer, something dark began to unfold. Secrets unraveled, relationships fractured, and Isabella felt that the ground beneath her would swallow her whole. "I trusted you!" she cried, voice strained, confusion and betrayal washing over her. And then, with another blinding flash, the creature rose higher, casting darkness over everything. Isabella could feel her heart racing, panic rising. "What choice do I have now?" she whispered. As the shadows loomed larger than life, the night was descending, chaos unfolding. Above them, the sky was turning darker, shadows clashing in a violent ballet. What lay ahead was uncertain, but her choice felt less like empowerment and more like a downward spiral into a void of despair. What kind of future awaited her now? Would anyone survive the storm brewing? The echoes of betrayal and the weight of choices loomed large as the sky darkened, leaving Isabella gasping on the edge of a storm, her heart pounding, her mind racing. Isabella blinked, her heart racing. The colossal figure loomed overhead, shadows swirling around it like a storm. Richard's voice was lost in the chaos, drowned out by the thunder of her thoughts. Sister? Heir? What did it all mean now? Suddenly, with a deafening crack, the ground ripped open wider, expanding like a hungry mouth, eager to swallow everything in its reach. The villagers gasped, terror written across their faces. "Isabella, get back!" Jack shouted, his voice a desperate plea, slicing through the panic. But she couldn't move. The weight of the revelations hung thick in the air. The two Richards faced off, confusion swirling like the smoke from the church fire. A powerful wind howled around them, carrying whispers of danger. Isabella felt it in her bones, a tremor of fate, shifting the very fabric of her reality. Then it happened. Just as the creature opened its maw, a blinding light erupted from the crack, consuming everything in its path. It was an explosion of energy that pushed everyone back, the force sending the villagers tumbling in all directions. Isabella shielded her eyes, fear and wonder mingling in her chest. When the light faded, silence fell, and with it, clarity struck like lightning. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. There stood a woman in the center of the chaos, a striking figure cloaked in radiant light. At first, Isabella thought it might be an angel or a higher being sent to save them. But then her breath caught in her throat, recognition hitting her like a hammer. It was her mother, or rather, a twisted version of her. "Mother?" Isabella's voice trembled, shock shaking her to the core. How are you here?" The woman smiled, but it was not the warm smile Isabella remembered. It was sharp, a gleam of something sinister lurking behind it. "You have much to learn, dear daughter. Power isn't something lost. It only adapts. Isabella's heart raced. This wasn't the sweet protector she yearned for. This was a puppeteer, strings ready to pull. "What do you mean?" The woman stepped forward, aura shimmering, a grin freshly painted across her lips. "You see, while your father had ambitions, I have a legacy, one that you're destined to embrace. But Richard?" She waved her hand dismissively, a world apart from the original Richard. With that admission, the ground shook again, but this time it wasn't horror. It was awakening. The villagers peeled back, expressions morphing from shock to fear, some even filled with anger. "What's happening?" one woman shouted, clutching her child against her side. The second Richard stepped forward, eyes widening. "You've been deceiving us all. The powers are ours to claim," he shouted at Isabella's mother. "No," she crooned, tilting her head, eyes glimmering with an unearthly light. "They are never yours. My daughter has the birthright, the blood. You're nothing more than a marionette." Isabella felt her body tense. Confusion turned to pain. "No, we're not pawns in a game," she yelled, feeling the crowd's collective heartbeat behind her. They had come to support her, and she couldn't let them down. Then her mother smiled wider, a predatory gleam in her eye. "But that's where you're so wrong. It's a game that has been played for centuries, and you're the pièce de résistance." Suddenly, she lunged forward, a hand reaching for Isabella, energy crackling in the air as if charging the storm. "No!" Jack roared, stepping in front of Isabella. But just as the two were about to collide, everything froze. Time hung suspended, distorted. The villagers held their breath, eyes wide, waiting for the world to shatter. Isabella looked back at Jack, fear threading through her heart. "Trust me," she whispered, conflicted. Jack's eyes burned with something she couldn't name. But then the world snapped back into motion, and the unexpected happened. Isabella's mother screamed, a fierce glimmer of a spell woven into her very being, crashing against Jack's protective stance. A blinding light surged forth, pulling everyone into its embrace. But as it enveloped them, Isabella felt a sickening chill. The light twisted, morphing into darkness that seeped into her very essence, a searing pain that shot through her chest. "No!" she shouted, body stiffening, feeling something slip from her grasp. The others, collectively unsure, terrified, watched in horror as their world began shifting. In that moment of chaos, the truth crashed down, heavy like a storm cloud. Isabella looked around. The crowd, her village, the two Richards, they were all connected, all bound together in a tapestry woven through time. Fate lying at their feet like an unavoidable curse, and she could feel it. Her ties to both darkness and light. Then, in that electric moment of horror and realization, her mother's voice echoed deep within her mind, pulling apart the strands of her memory. "You will embrace power. You will lead us all." Questions erupted. Had she truly been chosen, or was it all an illusion? The weight of the moment pressed down, a turning point igniting uncertainty. And as the darkness threatened to consume them, Isabella understood everything would change. And deep within her, the struggle for her soul had only just begun. The blinding light from Isabella's mother flared, catching everyone off guard. Time felt suspended as the world around them held its breath. As the creature roared, "The darkness!" "Isabella!" Jack's voice broke through, desperate and searching. The villagers clutched one another, their faces pale and fearful. Realization sparked through Isabella's mind. She wasn't just a pawn, she was the key. "I won't let you use me," she shouted, lifting her hands as if to shield herself from the turmoil. The warmth of the light surged within her, illuminating every shadow threatening to consume her. Jack stepped closer, a fierce protectiveness written across his face. "I believe in you," he yelled, eyes locked onto hers, full of determination. That faith ignited a new fire in her. "Get back!" Isabella cried out, suddenly understanding that embracing her true power could shatter the chains binding them all. The ground quaked, energy pulsed through her veins. "I am not just your daughter. I am not just your heir!" The crowd gasped, a ripple of shock washing through them. Her mother faltered, surprise creeping into her eyes. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Taking control!" Isabella shouted. She aimed her palms toward the creature, feeling currents of power swirl around her. "You think you can bend me to your will? No more!" With a surge, the energy exploded forth, a force of nature released. Light clashed against dark, sending shockwaves through the night. The two Richards reeled back, fear etched across their faces as Isabella faced them down. In that moment, the younger Richard sneered, straightening as if recovering his bravado. He launched forward, ready to reclaim his lost ground. "You were always meant to join me." But as he approached, Isabella's voice rang out, cutting through his arrogance. "Never! I choose my own path." Suddenly, the light engulfed her, lifting her above the ground. The villagers shielded their eyes, awe mixing with disbelief. Jack's voice was an anchor. "Isabella!" he called, his grip unwavering. Isabella sensed her other self flickering beside her, shadows twisting and intertwining. "No, I will not be you!" she shouted, drawing strength from the crowd. They were her support, her family. The energy cascaded, breaking the bounds of reality, sending waves across the terrified faces of the villagers. The ground shook violently, but hope shone like a beacon through the chaos. Then, with an earth-shattering roar, the creature expulsed a wave of darkness. Isabella thrust her hands outward with everything she had. Light met shadow with explosive force, an eruption that set the night ablaze. Everything shifted, colors exploding around her, combining until they became a vortex of brilliant energy, swirling in a massive cyclone. Within it, Isabella stood firm, her heart pounding like a war drum. She could feel her true calling, igniting deep within. Passion, bravery, hope. "Choose!" her mother screamed, but the power surged beyond her control. Isabella was no longer merely a choice. She was a culmination of everything. Her fears, dreams, and the love she had found in Jack, in Sophie, and the village. "Let them go!" The darkness cracked like glass, splintering into 1,000 pieces. Richard's face twisted, horror etched into his features, as the room around them cascaded into streams of light. And just like that, the creature faded, leaving only the shadows of its fear behind. Isabella landed gently on the ground. Light dimming, but hearts aflame. The villagers erupted into cheers, disbelief morphing into gratitude. Jack rushed to her side, grasping her hands tightly. "You did it! You chose!" Isabella's heart swelled, but a shadow still loomed in her mind. There were questions left unanswered. What lay ahead for them? Was this truly the end of darkness? The crowd swelled around her. "I will protect this village. Together," she declared. But doubt whispered just below the surface. As the cheers rang in her ears, a chilling thought crept in. This wasn't just a beginning. It was a prelude to battles yet to come. The night was alive with hope, but lingering shadows still danced on the horizon. And now, dear friends, it's your turn to join this incredible journey. You must subscribe now so you don't miss out on upcoming exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about today's finale. What will happen next? Don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. The adventure continues, and you won't want to miss it.